I'm reviewing a video where I do a straight stroke drill. First of all, the alignment looks okay. Look, elbow, shoulder, vision center, cue through the center of the cue ball. I get good action on the cue ball, and at first glance, the stroke looks very straight. Watch it as I play. Okay, the cue ball hit the brake cloth that I'm shooting off from, but it went pretty straight. Now let's watch it again. Now I've got a post-it note over the screen lined up with the cue. So, and I can go a frame at a time, which is 1/60th of a second. And so as I'm going, you can see the cue coming back straight, right? Pretty good. Not absolutely perfect, but pretty good. And now we're going to see it come forward. There we go. Pretty straight, pretty straight, pretty straight. And then there's cue ball impact. So the cue ball is gone. The Q-tip is no longer going to touch the cue ball at all. It was just that moment of impact right there. And the cue still looks pretty straight. Now, the back of the cue is moving to the left as you're viewing it, and the tip is moving to the right. Just because the cue ball's gone doesn't mean that little bit of tip deviation doesn't affect the stroke. It does. And it can also appear earlier, that is before impact, because it's there. And so it can deteriorate during a game while you're playing, and all of a sudden you're starting to hit the cue ball just a fraction of a millimeter left of where you intend, and the Q-tip finishes to the left. So let's look again. Here are the Q-tips coming forward. I want you to look at my elbow. The top of my elbow is kind of above the bottom of the light switch on the wall back there, so we can use that as a height gauge. So as it comes through, right there's impact with the cue ball, and look at the elbow. It's down almost to the bottom of the light switch, so it's already starting to drop a little bit. And then as we continue on the follow through, the elbow has come down below. Now, if you're watching me from the side, you wouldn't notice a whole lot of elbow drop, but it's this elbow drop is what's making the tip go left. This is why no elbow drop is so important. People say, oh, it doesn't matter as long as you deliver your cue straight. And they're correct. And you can deliver your cue straight while dropping your elbow. But it takes hours and hours and hours and hours of practice, because it's a complicated movement to get your hand to stay aligned. It's actually moving to the right of where it wants to go because you're dropping your elbow. So you can stroke straight without dropping your elbow. It takes a ton more work to do it. But if you can get your elbow pinned so it stays at the same height all the way through the stroke and follow through, it doesn't take any work. It just goes straight naturally. I can get that cue ball to go straight up and down the table. That doesn't mean I'm hitting the center of the cue ball. You have to look at the whole process. In this example, I keep my elbow up. Watch the action of the cue ball and the cue stick. Now you can see the cue ball came back just a little bit to the right, so I didn't hit it perfectly straight. There's no side spin on the cue ball, so we know that I hit it in the center. But let's watch the delivery again. Here's cue ball address, and this time you can see that my elbow is just above the bottom of the light switch. So we're bringing it back. There's the back of the backstroke. Elbow hasn't moved. Coming forward. There's impact. The elbow is still just above the bottom of the light switch. Watch the tip, the Q-tip going through, and the shaft. Straight through all the way, no deviation to the left. Actually, there might be just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit to the left, but it looks much straighter than before. And the elbow is just a little bit lower. It's kind of at the bottom of the light switch. Now there's some deformation in the bones and cartilage that happens when you swing your arm. So that could be all that we're seeing. When we talk about elbow drop, we're talking about the position of the upper arm. We don't want the upper arm to move, to rotate around the shoulder at all. That's the feeling, the sensation that you're going for when you stroke the cue ball, is that upper arm stays still. But This time I delivered the cue much straighter because of the lack of that elbow drop. And even though the cue ball didn't come back perfectly straight, I'm able to judge what I'm doing only because I didn't drop my elbow. And so now the cue tip is going through straight. The overall point is that if your cue tip isn't going perfectly straight all the way through the cue ball, even after impact, then you can't judge your results. You may shoot this drill that I'm shooting right now and get that cue ball to come back perfectly straight. All that means is you've developed the timing to get the impact of the cue ball at the right point. Your cue tip might not be going straight. You've got to look at a video. You've got to analyze it in this fashion if you want it to be easier and natural, because only when you can keep your elbow up and get the shaft, the tip to travel completely straight from backstroke to impact and through impact, that's when you're going to find it the easiest to shoot accurately. And you're going to find your cue ball control also comes much easier and much more naturally. So that's the lesson. Hope that makes sense.